Hey guys. So, today I want to read to you guys an article that was written, or should I say is a blog post that was written by a guy by the name of Kamau, I'm not sure if I pronounce his name correctly, I don't want to butcher it, Kamau Bobb, spelled B-O-B-B. And this blog post was written in the year 2007. He is currently, this Kamau Bobb guy, is currently the head of diversity. I didn't even know that was a position. I would liken it to some sort of zoologist, the head of diversity at the particular zoo. Or in this case, a person who makes sure that all of the different species of human beings are represented at a particular company. In this case, being Google, company by the name of Google. So, one second, guys, I'll turn off the notifications. And so this Kamau Bobb wrote an article in 2007, and I told you guys many times that, people like him, I knew a lot of people like him. The only difference at that time was that the people that I knew who were like him, who had his mindset, who still have his mindset, were considered even fringe in the Democratic Party in the left-wing side of the political spectrum. And today, people like him are considered mainstream. Because, as you guys know, the left managed to chip away and chip away and chip away until they got what they wanted. Socially speaking, at least. So now, I'm going to read you guys an article, and then I'm going to tell you guys why, apart from the fact that, I'll tell you guys about who this guy is, I'll tell you guys why a person like him could even, and others like him, could even think such a thing about Jews. So I'll read you guys the article, and then I'll give you my analysis about it. Okay. The blog post is entitled, If I Were a Jew. Obviously he's not. Okay. If I were a Jew today, my sensibilities would be tormented. Interesting. Okay. I would find it increasingly difficult to reconcile the long cycles of oppression that Jewish people have endured and the insatiable appetite for vengeful violence that Israel, my homeland, has now acquired. Okay, I'll address this. First sentence. This reconciliation would be particularly difficult now in November, 79 years after Kristallnacht. So he's speaking in 2007. The night of broken glass. The anniversary of this dreadful, monumental day in my history would bring me pause, but would force me to reflect on the legacy of extraordinary human suffering. I might wonder how the vicious eruption of cruelty in the mid-20th century has influenced the shape of my identity as a Jewish person and our collective identity as Jewish people. So now you guys see what he's doing is basically what the Germans, some Germans and Europeans are doing today to, I guess, get rid of their own guilt about what they did to the Jews, is basically saying that Israel is now doing to the Palestinians what we did to them. They took what we did to them and they've transferred into, it's a psychological trick, right? Suffering and oppression typically give rise to sympathy and compassion among the oppressed. Meaning what he's saying is, if we were oppressed, that we apparently we oppressed the Palestinians and we should stop doing so, right? I can look upon the sufferer and know that therefore for the grace of God go I. During this period I might well reflect on the redemptive qualities of suffering that my people have learned through a ghastly set of lessons. I would not have to reflect alone. I could read the lessons explicitly from Elie Wiesel and Frank and Chaim Potok. One of these people is dead, but okay. I would conclude that my Jewish faith and the history of my people render me closer to human compassion, closer to the instinct to offer healing to hurt, patience to anxiety, and understanding to confusion. I don't know how I would reconcile that identity with the behavior of fundamentalist Jewish extremists or of Israel as a nation. The details will confuse me. I wouldn't understand those who suggest that bombing Lebanon, slaughtering Lebanese people, and largely destroying Beirut in retaliation for the capture of a few soldiers is justified. I wouldn't understand the notion of collective punishment, cutting off gas, electricity, and water from residents in Gaza because they are attacking Israel, who is fighting against them. It would be unconscionable to me to watch Israeli tanks donning the Star of David, rumbling through Ramallah, destroying buildings and breaking the glass. I will be confused in concept too. My faith would lead me to believe that Israel is the homeland of my people. My intellect would convince me that it cannot be that simple. The faith and reason of the Palestinians or Muslims cannot simply be baseless. I would have to believe that the degree of animus, vengeance, and violence that they now carry is not rooted in their identity, but rather in their experience in sordid nations shuffling and rebuilding that took place after World War II. It must be rooted in their hurt, in their sense of displacement, abandonment, and hopelessness. My reflections on Kristallnacht would lead me to feel that these are precisely the human sentiments that I, as a Jew, would understand, that I ought to understand and feel compelled to help alleviate. It cannot be the total sum of history of suffering and slaughter places such a premium on my identity that I would be willing to damn others in defense of it. If I were a Jew, I would be concerned about my insatiable appetite for war and killing in defense of myself. It's like basically what he's saying is like, if someone comes to kill you, and I'll get to that, don't kill them. Don't ever kill them. Self-defense is undoubtedly an instinct, but I would be afraid of my increasing insensitivity to the suffering of others. My greatest torment would be that I misinterpreted the identity offered by my history and transposed spiritual human compassion with self-righteous impunity. So guys, I just have to say that the fact that a person like this is able to write such an article is not his fault. It is our fault entirely. You know, I'll tell you guys, I just had a discussion with my grandmother who called me from Brooklyn, and I told her, you know, the fact that people are able to come to us, to the Jewish people, to Israel, and say that we are this and that and the other is our own fault. Why? Because up until the 80s, and I would say even the 90s, we were basically, you know, coming at the world from a position of strength. We had come back to our homeland, we defeated our enemies, we were no longer going to the, you know, like sheep to the slaughter, and we were coming from a position of strength. And then what happened? What happened was we had intifadas here in Israel, and people got scared, and a new generation came along, and they said, you know, we're just tired of this, and how do we alleviate this? How do we solve this? We have to go back to, you know, giving our enemies what they want. We're tired of this stuff. You know, we had Jews in America who became kind of disconnected from this stuff, and they basically said, you know, this can all be solved. You know, maybe our enemies are now, you know, now that they're in the modern era, maybe these guys want to just live side by side. Not all of them are bad. And maybe, just maybe, if we gave them a state, all of this would end. We would live in peace, you know, because, and we even had somebody like Shimon Peres who was using the psukim, the verses from, you know, Psalms, from Tehillim, where they say, seek peace and pursue it, and you know, all these kind of things like tzedek, tirdof, and all these kind of things. We use them to say basically, hey, let's make something called Oslo, let's pull our people out of Gush Katif, and all this kind of stuff. Basically, guys, what we did was we went into following the wrong religion, namely Christianity, where it says turn the other cheek. And interestingly enough, the Christians, evangelicals who support us, went into following our religion. They started reading Tanakh, and our religion actually says, and in the Talmud it says, you know, if somebody comes to kill you, you rise up and kill them first. So now, as a result of that, and as a result of primarily American Jews, Ashkenazi Jews in the United States behaving the way that they behave, right, where they kind of behave like, I hate to say it, you guys are docile. Most of you guys, right? You're pretty docile, you're pretty, you know, I hate to use the word effeminate, but, you know, if you look at the Woody Allens and the Larry Davids of the world, as funny as they are, that is the picture of the American Ashkenazi Jew in all his glory. Okay, guys? So now this guy's looking at us, and he's saying, look at those people, they suffered so much, and now, you know, he writes over here, you know, one can look upon the sufferer and know that there for the grace of God go I. I was just like them. And he's talking about how can we? Yeah, he writes, and he's looking at the Jew in America, and he's trying to reconcile. This guy is trying to reconcile. How can the Jew in America be the same as the Jew in Israel who has a tank and a tank has a Star of David on it? How could these people who are constantly suffering, and they've been suffering for 2,000 years, all of a sudden stop suffering, stand up for themselves, rise up from the ashes, fight back, and be strong? Well, maybe this guy doesn't know Jewish history. Maybe this guy doesn't know kind of the story of Hanukkah. Maybe this guy doesn't know the story of Bar Kokhba. He doesn't know the story of all of the strong Jews who fought for themselves, even the ones who did go to the slaughter in World War II, the partisans, the ones in the Jewish ghetto, all this kind of stuff. He prefers weak Jews. So he's basically saying, if the Jews are downtrodden and weak and suffering, they should have sympathy for the suffering. First of all, what this genius doesn't understand is most of the people that we're supposedly oppressing are not actually oppressed. They live here as free people. They vote in our Knesset. Even the ones that don't vote in our Knesset, just down the block, I was just telling, again, my grandmother who I was talking to, these people are very, very wealthy. What do they do on Shabbat? They ride around in their very expensive horses. Why? Because what they're doing is they're recreating what they had in the Arab countries when, even here, when the Jews lived under them. And so they were on horses and Jews were below them, right? So on Shabbat, we're on foot, and they're on a horse, It's like the Old Spice commercial. I'm on a horse, right? So these people are not so downtrodden. All you have to do is come here and look. They're not. They're really, really not. And the ones that supposedly are, that are living in refugee camps, which are basically glorified versions of, some of the inner cities that you'll see in America, are being kept that way by their own people, by the international, what's called the Arab Ummah, the Brotherhood, not the Muslim Brotherhood, but just the general, you want to call the Arab League or the international Arab community at large. Yeah, they're being used as a pawn, and they're being kept in these refugee camps in conjunction with, in cooperation with UNRWA and the EU. Okay. Other than that, my friends, these people are not suffering. If you want to talk about Gaza, open air prison, you only have to speak to one entity, my friends. That will be Hamas. This is known to everybody, okay? Even UNRWA said that when Israel was doing its operations, they made sure not to, hurt or bombard or destroy any UNRWA offices. They even admitted to this. They let media leave the buildings, okay? So, and we send them food and we send them electricity. He even mentioned, we cut off the electricity. In order to cut something off for people, you have to initially have sent them to these things, okay? So I'll tell you, my friends, the only reason a person like this is able to write this article, whenever he wrote it, 2007 or today, is because of our behavior, because of our weakness, our lack of pride, our lack of just basically owning our identity, and because, listen, people like him and the rest of the world got used to us being downtrodden. It got used to us suffering. You notice, a lot of people that he mentioned are people from Europe, Jews from Europe. Guys, as I mentioned in previous videos, Sephardic Jews don't have these problems. They don't have these complexes. They don't have these issues, okay? Ain't nobody writing articles about them, how they're, how they suffered and now that they're making Palestinians suffer. People are writing articles about the Holocaust and now this is what the Jews are doing. Guys, half of our army, maybe more, these are not descendants of Jews who hailed from Europe. These are people who came from Arab lands, people who came from Yemen and Morocco and Iraq and, the rest of North Africa and the rest of the Middle East. Okay? And they lived with Arabs and they know what Arabs can do to them and to the rest of us, and they don't want to go through that again. So if this guy knew about that, which he doesn't because we haven't told him, not just him but other people, we haven't told the world about this whole thing, he would understand that, hey, maybe we don't want to see a repeat of what we experienced under Muslim rule. Not only that, we don't want to see a repeat of what we experienced under the Germans. So I'm very sorry, but yes, we are going to act with impunity against the people whose leaders learned from the Nazis. Okay? But at the end of the day, my friends, he's only able to write such articles because we walk around pretending that we're weak, or we walk around pretending like we're still in the ghetto with our millions of dollars in Hollywood and all this other stuff and Wall Street and whatever it is, and we're still walking around as if we're the schnorrer, right? We're walking around as if we're the town schnorrer in Anatevka, at least the American Ashkenazi Jews. Not only that, we're subscribing to the wrong religion. Even the ones who are the atheists are walking around going, you have to turn the other cheek. Instead of, if somebody comes to kill you, you rise up and you kill him first. By the way, guys, the rest of that pasuk talks actually about a tunnel. If you know somebody is coming, this is in the Gemara, in the Talmud. Somebody tunnel under the ground. He's literally tunneling under the ground. Does it sound familiar to you? You come into the tunnel and you wait for him in the tunnel. Or in our particular case, bomb the heck out of the tunnel. My friends, but again, the only reason a person like this, and we're upset at him, this article came out, he's the head of diversity at Google, how can Google hire such a person? Well, listen guys, it's not difficult for a company like Google, who has their heads, whose leadership have their heads in where, to hire a person like this, but that's besides the point. The point is, we're the ones that bring it on ourselves with our behavior, okay? We've lost the plot. We've lost our identity. We don't know who the heck we are anymore. We've strayed away from Hashem. We're away from the Torah. We forgot about Jewish history, which is why we're experiencing the same things again with anti-Semitic attacks. People like Ma'im Bialik, as I said before, are shocked. How could this happen in America? Really? Guys, I don't know if you know, when we were in Germany in the 1800s, it was like somebody was trying to make Berlin New Jerusalem. And then we asked, how could this happen in Germany? Oh, Germany is such an advanced society. Germany, art and music and science and all this kind of stuff. And we were in society, and we were the highest reaches of society. And now we're in the highest reaches of American society. How could this happen? My friends, this is the only reason a guy like Kamau Bobb is able to write such articles. And we're getting upset at him. Okay, yeah, he doesn't understand. He doesn't know Jewish history. All these kind of things. But I'll tell you guys something. It's all our fault. We're sitting and we're pretending like we're downtrodden. We don't understand the enormity and the weight of and just how incredible it is that we've come back to our land after 2,000 years, and we're just not willing to shoulder the responsibility to bear the weight that we basically have. We're in a very dangerous part of the world with these guys, with our cousins. We have to defend ourselves, and we have to follow the right religion, which is the Torah, not, I hate to say Christianity, which says turn the other cheek. And I'll tell you guys something, I think Christians today, evangelicals who support Israel, are not, they've forgotten about this turning the other cheek thing. They understand that sometimes, as King Solomon said, there's a time for peace and there's a time for war. Okay, so this guy, he's even mentioning the whole vengefulness thing and all this kind of stuff. My friends, the Torah talks about it. There's a time to take revenge. There is a time. There's a time to not take revenge, and there's a time to do so. There's a time to do so. When you have to shoot, you shoot. When you have to not shoot, you don't shoot. Right? Lest you be eliminated, my friends. So, listen, we can sit around and we can be upset at this guy who writes, or people like him as well, who writes this article. And I'll tell you guys something, again, he wrote an article like this, and I knew people like him. I knew people like him in the underground music scene in New York. They were primarily on the fringe of of society, for the fringes of the left-wing side of politics. And these people, they really, I got to give it up to them. They stuck to their guns. They stuck to their guns. They finally got a president that they liked. They finally elected one of theirs, namely Obama, and he was there for 8 years, and he really, and him and his administration and other people in the media, they really pushed to change the culture, and we got to wokeness. By the time Trump was elected, Trump was like the ultimate, I guess you could say, chemotherapy. That's why there was such a thing against him, such a movement against him, because the wokeness was so festering, people didn't even notice it until Trump came along, and he basically just made it come to the surface like a cancer, you know? And but this stuff was around for a while. This is, Obama put this in, and his people, right? And the media and culture and all these other things. But these people, I knew them back in the day. Now they're just mainstream. Their nonsense is mainstream, right? These people have their day in the sun now. But now there's a backlash to them, right? But, my friends, ultimately, I'll tell you guys something. This is all on us. All of this stuff is all on us. We can sit around, we can cry, and we can get upset. How can Google hire this guy? I'm not surprised they hired him, knowing who runs Google, right? I'm not surprised. I'm not shocked. It's not about Google. It's all about us, guys. It's really all about us. And the minute that we start owning who we are, and we start stop following the wrong religion, and realize what we actually have to do in order to live a life of peace, in order to preserve our nation, and to stop our enemies from just bombing us into smithereens and pushing us into the Mediterranean Sea. Okay, we're coming up on what the Arabs call the Naksa Day, which is the day that they failed in 1967 to do the tikkun, or to rectify what happened in 1948, which is when they tried to push us into the sea the first time, and 67 was the second time, if you don't count 1956. 67 was the second time, so now they're going to celebrate that, or commemorate that, okay? And we will remember how we basically fought off these armies. Not only that, how did we fight them off? Because Moshe Dayan, of all people, ordered a preemptive strike on Egypt. If someone comes to kill you, and you know that they're arming themselves to kill you, you rise up and you kill them first. A non-religious guy, who ironically later gave back the key to Har HaBayis, which is what we have a problem with now, a machloket over now, argument, he was the one that conducted this preemptive strike on Egypt, my friends. Okay? So we just have to remember, we just have to stop being reactive, start being proactive, and you know what? We have to stand up at the UN or wherever in front of the world and say, listen, every once in a while I notice we do that. Danny Danon held up a Torah or a Bible in the UN, and it's one of the small rooms. Naftali Bennett goes on the media, he shows the coins from 2,000 years ago, Bar Kochba, whatever it is, okay? Or Freedom for Zion, Herut Zion coin. Every once in a while we kind of pepper in certain things, but for the most part, we're always trying to do this whole game of like, the Balfour Declaration, San Remo, the UN plan, or I don't know, high tech, or this or that, two-state solution. My friends, it's just the Torah. That's all it is. It's not that complicated. It's just the Torah. And for you Jews who are watching and you're saying we cannot use the Torah as a real estate document for the, as you say in French, raison d'être of the existence of Israel, I don't know what else we can use, my friends. I don't know that there would be a Balfour or a San Remo or any of these other things. What else can we use if we can't use the Torah? We don't have anything else. My friends, we don't have anything else that is justifying us being in Yerushalayim, in Jerusalem, and Judea and Samaria. There's nothing else. Nothing, as they say, ain't nothing going on but the rent. Like, what else do you propose? I can't think of anything. I really can't. So the minute we own our own identity, and the minute we own, the minute we start standing up for ourselves and just telling the world, listen, we're not going to be these docile little lambs. We're not going to go like sheep to the slaughter ever again. We're not going to have any, mishigas or any complexes about these things, is the minute we're going to stop seeing these articles written about us, because the world will not see us as somebody who's conflicted and somebody who's kvetching and somebody says, I don't know, like this Woody Allen, Larry David situation going on, okay? Oh, my friend wants to add himself to the conversation. Let's see if I can add him this time. No answer from live video guest. Okay, we're going to talk later. Anyway, guys, so that's basically the story. It's not about them. It's always about us. Okay? It's always about us. And we need to go back to our identity and stop with this galutified just exilified mentality where we have to, oh, we were treated badly, and now we have to just, even though we're not treating them badly, we're letting these people vote in our Knesset. Now they have a record number of Knesset members in our Israeli Knesset. But it's just this, like, I don't know. I don't know any other nation who come back to the land after being displaced for 2,000 years and then slowly give it away because they want peace with an enemy whose dreams of making him swim in the sea. I mean, it's just unthinkable, my friends. And the fact that this guy is even able to write such an article only says what it says about us. It's not really about him. He's going to be who he is, guys. Trust me. I know people like him. I've met people like him. There's no changing him, right? There's no convincing him. We have to be who we have to be. Okay? That's basically the story. All right, guys. It's been real. And by the way, I just posted some videos of the gentleman Yaakov Fauci, some clips about kind of something akin to what I just said. And also he explains actually the history of Sheikh Jarrah, the neighborhood Shimon HaTzadik, and its significance to the Jewish people. And you guys should go check that out. I posted a short clip, like a 9-minute clip, as opposed to the full hour interview, 58-minute interview. But you could also check that out as well. And as far as I know, I'm the only, so to speak, non-left-wing source that has basically interviewed him and gotten information from the horse's mouth, as it were. And I spoke about this yesterday. Jewish press, Arad Sheva, other people who have not even touched. They consider him a third rail. Unfortunate, but it is what it is, and we'll see what happens. Yes, Mr. Paul Carpenter, I don't know why that's happening, but I will speak to you privately, and we'll talk about aliens. Oh yeah, baby, it's June 2021. The deadline, the deadline is the end of June. A friend of mine told me yesterday he hopes the aliens land, who are actually not aliens. They might be malachim, and they will stop the conflict, and Mashiach will come. But that's a separate video for a separate day. All right, guys, I'll talk to you soon.